In July 2025, President Donald J. Trump unveiled plans for a grand $200,090,000 square foot addition to be added to the White House's East Wing, marking one of the most significant structural changes to the executive mansion since the Truman Balcony in 1948. Funded by President Trump and private donors, this lavish addition, set to begin construction in the fall of 2025, aims to replace the East Wing's offices and eliminate the need for unsightly tents used for large state dinners. This bold move is just the latest chapter in the White House's evolving story, a tale of additions and renovations shaped by presidents, their families, and the nation's needs since its completion in 1800. The White House, designed by James Hoban, was first occupied by President John Adams in November of 1800. It cost $232,372. That's about $4.5 million in 2025, and it was funded entirely by congressional appropriations. Built of sandstone, it featured 23 rooms and was a modest yet elegant residence for the young republic's leader. However, its early years were marred by destruction. In 1814, British forces burned the mansion down to the ground. President James Monroe oversaw its reconstruction, completed in 1817 at a cost of $500,000. That's roughly $10 million today. It was paid by government funds. President Monroe added personal touches, furnishing the rebuilt home with items purchased from France, some funded by a $20,000 congressional grant. Throughout the 19th century, the White House adapted to growing demands. The north portico of the White House was added between 1829 and 1830, primarily to improve the building's architectural balance and functionality. The portico was constructed to provide a formal entrance on the north side. The addition was part of broader renovations under President Andrew Jackson's administration to modernize and refine the executive mansion. It cost about $25,000, which is about $850,000 today. The funding was appropriated by Congress, though the project faced criticism from opponents, who argued the expenditure was excessive during an economic downturn and better allocated to infrastructure or debt reduction. So you see, no matter who does anything to the White House, there's always going to be people complaining about it and saying how that money could be better spent. So what's going on as of the time of this recording is nothing new. In fact, it's to be expected. It happens all the time. President Andrew Jackson installed running water and iron pipes in 1833. That was a $10,000 project, which is about $300,000 today, and that also was funded by Congress. President Millard Fillmore, you probably never even heard of him, added a library in 1850, costing $250. That's around $9,000 today, and it was paid through government allocations. In 1866, post-Civil War, President Andrew Johnson oversaw interior decorations including new wallpapers and furnishings, costing $30,000. That's roughly $550,000 today, and that was covered by federal funds. President Ulysses S. Grant's 1873 renovations, including gas lighting and new decor, cost $100,000. That's roughly $2.3 million today, which was also government funded. The late 19th century saw structural expansions. In 1881, President Chester A. Arthur commissioned a major redecoration by Louis Comfort Tiffany, costing $20,000. That's about $550,000 today. Paid by Congress, though Arthur's lavish taste drew some criticism. President Theodore Roosevelt's 1902 overhaul was pivotal, adding the West Wing to house offices, relocating staff, from the residents. Costing $475,000, which is about $15 million today, this government-funded project included a new east wing for social functions, preserving the mansion's residential character. Roosevelt's changes, designed by Charles McKim, emphasized historical integrity. The 20th century brought modernizations. President Calvin Coolidge added a third-floor attic in 1927, costing $200,000. That's about $3.5 million today, and it was funded by Congress to accommodate growing staff needs. President Franklin D. Roosevelt expanded the West Wing between 1933 and 1934 and added an indoor pool at the same time. The entire project cost $335,000. That would be about $7.5 million today. The swimming pool was funded by private donations since swimming was part of his polio therapy. The East Wing, rebuilt in 1942 under FDR, cost $375,000. That's about $6.5 million today. It was paid by government funds to support wartime operations and housing the First Lady's staff. President Harry S. Truman's 1948 to 1952 gut renovation was the most extensive, addressing structural decay. Costing $5.7 million. There's about $65 million today. It was entirely government funded. It rebuilt the interior while preserving the exterior and included adding the iconic Truman Balcony for $16,000, which is about $180,000 today. President Dwight D. Eisenhower installed a heliport in 1957, costing $25,000. That's about $260,000 today, and it was funded by the military budget. President John F. Kennedy's 1961 to 1963 restoration, led by First Lady Jacqueline Kennedy, focused on historical authenticity, costing $2 million, which is about $18 million today. Private donations and a $100,000 congressional stipend covered furnishings, while structural work used government funds. Recent decades saw subtler changes. President Richard Nixon added a one-lane bowling alley in 1969, costing $25,000, which is about $200,000 today, and that was privately funded. The indoor swimming pool was located in the West Gallery between the White House and the West Wing. It featured arched ceilings and half-moon windows, which created a serene space for relaxation and exercise. In 1970, at a cost of $150,000, paid for with federal funds, President Richard Nixon converted it into the press briefing room to accommodate the growing media presence. The pool structure remains beneath the press room floor, now housing computer servers and cables, but it is no longer functional as a pool. President Gerald Ford installed an outdoor pool in 1975, costing $60,000, which is about $350,000 today, and that was also privately funded. President Bill Clinton renovated the kitchen in 1993 for $150,000, which is about $300,000 today, and that was paid by private donations because it was for family use. Barack Hussein Obama's 2009 redecoration cost $1.5 million, which is about $2 million today, and it was largely funded by the Obamas and private donors, with a $100,000 government stipend for residential areas. Obama also had the White House's historic 1911 tennis court converted into a full-sized basketball court. President Trump's first term saw $1.75 million in redecorations, including gold decor and a flat-screen TV, funded by private donations and a government stipend. The White House Rose Garden was revamped in 2025 to enhance accessibility and event suitability. You see, the grassy center was often wet and challenging for guests in heels, and so it was replaced with elegant white stone pavers, creating a stable, all-weather surface. I know a lot of people think that the historic Rose Garden was destroyed, but it wasn't. The iconic rose bushes and hedges along the perimeter were preserved, 100%, maintaining the garden's timeless charm, as designed by Ellen Wilson in 1913 and Rachel Mellon in 1962. The renovated garden now shines as a welcoming venue for memorable White House events. And so, as you can see, since 1800, the White House has undergone continuous major renovations and restorations to meet the evolving needs of the First Family and White House staff, blending historical preservation with modern functionality. Each change reflects a commitment to adapting this iconic residence while honoring its legacy. These transformations ensure the White House remains a vibrant home, workplace, and a symbol of American resilience, ready to welcome future generations with grace and practicality. So, what do you think of the many changes and renovations and restorations to the White House? If you were President of the United States, what kind of changes would you make? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. Kindly remember to like, share, and subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Please check out the links below to learn how to support my research and productions. This channel is sponsored by CampfireShop.com. Do me a favor and check them out, and buy some awesome candles, herbal supplements, teas, and more. Kindly be kind to all of our fellow Earthlings, and please do not harm them. And do yourself a favor and go to a local shelter and adopt a cat or a dog or both. You and they will be very glad that you did. Until next time, I wish you safe travels on all your journeys.